respects, print media is a powerful, compelling tool. Factors in the future of print media. Print media is diverse in that its content ranges from messages whose purposes vary widely, as discussed in chapter/lecture 4, so not all print media will have the same prognosis. Books, newspapers, magazines, etc. have evolved to serve different functions, so one cannot make a blanket prediction on behalf of all printed media, so it's useful to identify the factors that inform their respective paths. The prognosis for the future of any print medium channel depends on the purpose of the content and who pays to promulgate the content. Periodicals that contain nonfiction current events content, such as news and editorials, rely on advertisers to offset the publication and distribution costs otherwise paid by the consumer, so it would be advertisers who have a larger role in determining their fate. Because Internet ads provide revenue to the website, and because ads can be targeted based on user data analysis, an increasing amount of advertiser-funded content, like news and periodical articles, has migrated online to the publishers' websites, while print circulation decreases. Textbooks, due to their cost as well as references whose print versions would be bulky, have also migrated to electronic versions, websites, or apps in the case of many references, to facilitate access from one's pocket or handbag. The need for timeliness in transmitting scientific research data suggests more and more of that publishing will migrate to electronic media, since it doesn't have the liability of time lag in the printing and distribution of physical copies. Books containing literary content, prose, poetry, or visual art content such as coffee table books have a more exclusive relationship between author/publisher and reader, with the latter funding it, so its fate is more in the hands of the reading public. The release of physical books for sale to the public is eventized to an extent that other printed media aren't. Remember the lines stretching from the doors of bookstores so readers could snap up the latest books in popular series? Books can still generate that kind of excitement, so their future cannot be weighed by the same factors as those of periodicals. Electronic media. Electronic media is that which uses the electromagnetic spectrum to transmit messages via signals of various types onto devices where the receiver can access the message content. It facilitates an easy connection between people on opposite ends of the globe. Electronic media may assist in mass communication by allowing us to speedily send messages to large numbers of people. Features of electronic media. Electronic media is any type of media that can be shared on any electronic device for viewing by the general public. Unlike static media, printing, electronic media is transmitted simultaneously to a large audience. Television, radio, and the Internet are examples of electronic media. The objective of using electronic media can be for a variety of purposes, among which are to promote your ideas, products, services. Electronic media, whether through the usage of media devices such as television, radios, handheld devices, or social media platforms on the Internet, is an effective way to connect. These are just a few of the numerous ways you may use the electronic media to your benefit. You may use electronic media to your benefit. Types of electronic media. Many different types of electronic media that broadcast various content, such as news, entertainment, ads, and promotions. The following are the various sorts of electronic media. Radio. Radio transmits audio signals. This method of electronic media can be effective and much more affordable than television, but does not engage the listener's attention as much as visual content. Television. Television is one of the most used electronic media devices because they are present in the majority of homes in developed areas and only require rudimentary electrical and transmission infrastructure to receive audio-visual broadcast content or display video content. Internet. The Internet is one of the most profitable electronic media networks because its delivery of content is based on user preferences, thus engages consumers more in content selection and personally targeted advertising. Electronic signage/public video displays. Whether it be on an electronic billboard or ATM screen, electronic media is sure to be in almost everywhere you go. Digital communication. A subcategory of electronic communication is digital communication, increasingly replacing its predecessor of analog signals. Digital refers to when audio-visual content is digitally encoded as discrete signals and then electronically transmitted to the intended recipients. Digital communication refers to communication that is based on the numbers 1 and 0, as in electric currents that are on or off. The number 22 becomes 10110, for example. Words are converted to binary by assigning a number to each letter in a predetermined format. Example, ASCII code. 011010000, 0110001, 01110100 is the code for the word hat. Features of digital communication. Digital communication essentially consists of decoding information into a binary code and communicating it between devices that can encode and decode the information into a format that the sender and receiver can understand, such as words, images, and sound. A digital sequence is used as an interface between the source and the channel input, and similarly between the channel output and the end destination in digital communication systems. Digital media is accessible thanks to modern technology, making devices available to the average consumer with intuitive user interfaces, convenient and competitive price points, able to access the informational content of human society all in the palm of your hand. Advantages of electronic/digital media. Education. In areas too remote or poorly resourced in public educational infrastructure or access to print media, people might be able to educate themselves through electronic media. They get to learn about many things: politics, current events, issues of communal importance, national issues, etc. You can also avail yourself of electronic media to support your efforts to teach yourself about various topics, skills, or hobbies. Information. People are no longer as dependent on learning about reality through the filter of political or religious authorities, nor do they have to contend with the noise risked by fourth, fifth, or sixth-hand accounts of events. Media like television or social media platforms are a good source for people to get information that would otherwise be very difficult to attain if they didn't witness events and incidents in person. Advantages of electronic/digital media. Exposure. Electronic media makes people worldwide aware of events and issues. Through electronic media, you can get to see many cultural events going on in the world. You can peekaboo around the world from the comfort of your home. Opportunities. All of the previous listed advantages of electronic media provide more opportunities to connect with the world at different levels. Knowledge is power, so is the access to knowledge and expanding network abilities that electronic media provides. Disadvantages of electronic/digital media. Disadvantages of electronic and digital media are driven by the specter of obsolescence, environmental and political aspects of raw material procurement, and disposal unique to electronic media. Some disadvantages are: data stored electronically could become inaccessible when exposed to materials and signals that could erase or impede its transmission. Data stored electronically could be vulnerable to hackers or cyber warfare attacks unless the data is backed up on other locations, in removable data storage, or in printed form. The materials used in the manufacture of electronic devices are often rare, found only in a few countries, and or their disposal poses threats to the environment. The media on which data is stored could be rendered inaccessible by technological advances in media storage or access that render the storage mechanism obsolete. Think of the 5 1/4-inch floppy disks or magnetic tape reels or VHS cassettes. Factors in the future of electronic/digital media. Factors to consider in the prognosis of the future of electronic and digital media are driven by technology, as well as the availability of the materials used to produce the devices used to access media content. Here is what we have observed so far. The march of technology has impacts on the accessibility of content stored on electronic/digital media. If older data isn't transferred to media or media storage currently in use, that data is lost. This means that multiple electronic device platforms must exist simultaneously across the technological development timeline for optimal access to information. Technology must solve for the liabilities of natural or man-made phenomena that could compromise electronic/digital content. What also needs to be addressed are the environmental and political issues surrounding the procurement and disposal of materials used in the manufacture of electronic devices. This concludes Lecture 5. Please join us for Lecture 6 as we explore the different types of social media platforms.